9.
The Radio Wammo Breakfast.
Kiwi.
Well, really, it is the modern conundrum, isn't it? If you really needed to get out of Dodge, get out of town, how exactly do you disappear completely? I don't know why you'd want to do that. Perhaps you just really want to create a new life, leave those debts behind. I know in this economic recessionary times, many people want to do those sort of things. Why would you want to disappear? Well, Frank Ahearn could probably come up with a few reasons. He's made a career out of informing people how to disappear. And Frank Ahearn joins us in the States this morning. Hello to you, Frank.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on. How on earth have you made a career out of disappearing?
You know, I spent my life hunting people down, locating people for lawyers, investigators, tabloids, and one day I met a guy in a bookstore, and he was buying, like, offshore banking books and books of discretion, but he used his credit card, and I told him how I could locate him by his credit card purchases. Next thing you know, he said to me, hey, can you teach me how to disappear? And next thing you know, I got a business, and it's been amazing ever since.
There are that many people out there who do want to completely disappear?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it ranges from, victims of stalkers, victims of abusive exes, people who've come into money, want to get away from the family and friends who are trying to leech off of them, business partners where things have gone bad. But it's typically a money or a violent situation, and a lot of people are doing it.
Okay. Of course, years ago, it probably would have been easier to disappear because there's not so many electronic or paper trails around back, just even a couple of decades ago. But these days, people have got all these social media profiles, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. There's an electronic kind of fingerprint everywhere, isn't there?
Yeah, but you know something? You can use the electronic media as an aid. I call it a double-edged sword. I mean, you can use it and put disinformation up there. Doesn't mean that the information on somebody's Facebook or MySpace or Twitter is correct. And technology has made it affordable to live elsewhere, bank offshore, offshore credit cards. So you don't necessarily have to be where you live. I mean, back in the day, if you wanted to make a deposit to the bank, you had to walk to the bank and make a deposit. Now you can do it through, ATMs, cash machines, and wire transfers. So technology has been a friend to people disappearing as well.
It all sounds very dishonest, these sort of practices.
Yeah, I think it has that shadow to it. But as long as you're not breaking the law, as long as you're not cheating on your revenue or taxes, there's nothing wrong with it. And people do have legitimate reasons, be it danger, a crazy ex-husband, a crazy ex-wife, and people have to go.
Have you helped people though that have been dishonest, that have major debts and they just don't want to pay them off?
No, I don't work with people who are looking to not pay their debts. My point is, listen, you may disappear and realize it ain't working out. You're gonna have to go back and face those things. So to me, I screen my clients really well, make sure that there's no criminal charges, any debt, any as far as civil charges against them, and I also want a copy of their credit to make sure they're not running from debt, because that's kind of important as well.
So you almost do a character reference before you take them on.
Yeah, because I've had people contact me, and one guy contacted me and told me he was writing a book and wanted to know about certain things. He was asking me all of the questions that were totally outrageous, and I said, let me see a copy of the book, let me see the chapters, and I never heard from him again. So yeah, people try to ask me questions, and they have alternative motives. So I got to be really cautious.
Since 9/11, has it become, particularly in the States, has it become harder to disappear because there are now so many more laws enacted to weed out terrorists?
Well, it's not. No, because I don't think that when you're looking to disappear, you're not doing things like where you're going to be quote under a radar. I mean, if you're doing wire transfers and things of that nature, I mean there are records of transactions, but I don't think so much anymore. But again, the technology has helped people. I mean, you could move money around the world in a matter of clicks of buttons, and so I mean it's the best way to explain it. It's just a double-edged sword. It's a question of who's better at it, you or the person who's hunting you down.
Well, once you've made a client disappear, do you know where they are?
Yeah, typically, because we have to make sure that when they're getting services that's under a corporation, we want to make sure that they're set up correct and that there's no flaws in the system. And typically either me or I'll hire an investigator to work with them and, move to where they're going. Because one of the things is when they pick up and go, we've got to make sure they're not being followed by the aggressor. So there's a kind of like a big walk-away plan that we do. And, yeah, I do know where they're at.
On your website, frankahearn.com, you've highlighted some cases where people have tried to disappear and failed miserably. One particular case where a chap flew a plane and then parachuted out.
What an idiot. I mean, in the States especially, and up in Canada too, a lot of these big financial people who made millions of dollars and ripped off people millions of dollars, they've done these really crazy things. Like that one guy, he flew his plane, it put it on autopilot, it crashed, he parachutes out. He ends up actually going through like the swamps, and who does he hitch a ride with? But a cop, and it was an off-duty cop, and it was like, what are the chances of that? So, yeah, they do these silly things.
One of the topics of conversation on the show this morning is what to do with your Facebook profiles or your Twitter profiles or whatever social media profiles after you die. And that led me to thinking about this whole act of disappearing. What if you are a very kind of public person at the moment? I mean, imagine me. Imagine if I tried to disappear. I mean, I do a radio show and I've got a website and I've got all these social media profiles. Could I erase them all? Could I completely disappear?
Well, there's a good question is even when you delete it, what do they do with your information? That is a problem. What I would personally do, I would start deviating the information and slowly changing it over to bogus information, because then eventually that bogus information will start going out online and other websites will pick it up, so they don't have the true information about you. Because when you delete it, it doesn't mean it's not at another website, and that's one of the problems with technology, especially like social media. I mean, forget it. I mean, you one thing goes out on you today, and come next week, there's 15 other sites that have that information.
Well, that's the point, isn't it? Dead people can't disappear.
Say that again?
Dead people can't disappear at the moment. Even if you die, there's still remnants of you all over the place.
Yeah, I know. It's funny. I never really thought about that. What happens to your Facebook account when you die?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they'll have like a rest in peace Facebook department or something.
Well,
like
I think
that.
they should. Kind of a fenced off in memoriam area or something.
Right, but then you can fake your online death and just say you're dead, and people won't know. So it's an interesting point.
That is true. You could purport to be a loved one. You could purport to be the wife of you or whoever, and email Facebook and say this person has died. Right,
exactly, and they could. But again, what do they do with the information? Do they just keep it on their database? And what happens in 5 years from now, and Facebook may be out of business?
Yeah.
Where does all that information go?
Frank, could you ever see yourself disappearing?
Yeah, I'm just trying to make enough money, and I'm finally gone. And I live a very low profile, except like the media stuff. But other than that, you can't find me.
Well, here's the question: is Frank your given name at birth?
Francis Michael Christopher Ahearn. That's it.
Okay. So you haven't lived another life before the one now?
I've lived a lot of lives, but under the same name.
Well, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. People can find your book and the details on how to get your book as well at frankahearn.com. I know it's available now in New Zealand, I think through Amazon. Is that right?
Through Amazon and Penguin.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Frank. Cheers for joining us.
Thanks. Have a great day.
That is Frank there with some tips on how to disappear.